It was 18 months ago that we had the last one of these summits. Actually, Flex hosted it, and it was a lot of vision at that point in time, a lot of ideas, and a lot of really strong motivation from a broad group of people, many of which are still here today, many of which have jumped in and have joined our cause. Again, like Cole, I want to thank you all for being the ultimate champion of this. It's been a great ride, and as he mentioned, it's now real. There's now real deployments. We're thrilled to have been a part of that, and I want to talk a little bit about carrying on what Cole presented around some of the drivers around the edge and why we consider this to be a critical juncture in the entire industry, and why we believe that now is the time for edge deployments to be taken seriously and to be invested in, and now trying to build an ecosystem and an infrastructure around the world that can allow that to happen. If you look at what's coming, and Cole did a great job of presenting the drivers for this industry and where we see it going. If you get down to where we really see the next line of technology, 5G will be one of the big enablers. Totally in agreement with Cole in terms of there's a whole fiber infrastructure and a way of connecting backhaul, et cetera, and we have a big part to play in that. But at the same time, 5G is the next big enabler. Without 4G, many of the applications, including the exercise that Cole just did on a LinkedIn app, don't exist. With 5G, we know that there's going to be an entirely new set of applications that are going to be driven. Those applications being driven by the sheer speed and the edge, whether that be autonomous vehicle and digital health, as he talked about, augmented reality. Today, if you're not connected directly to a computer or to your phone, augmented reality doesn't really work, particularly virtual reality if you're going to be fully immersed. If you want to do that live, you're going to need to be connected to a really low latency to network. How that then gets architected inside the cloud becomes even more critical. The entire infrastructure then has to change. We're going to see an explosion of data centers at the edge. The explosion of those data centers at the edge creates an entirely new operational issue, an entirely new technology issue. How you go maintain those, how you go build those out, how you go then service those on a real-time basis becomes a major issue. What infrastructure you're going to go put those in, if you're going to transform central offices that have existed, 5,000 of them in the US alone for the AT&T expanded network, or whether you're going to do it at the base of cell towers, which Vapor is championing along with Crown Castle and American Tower and others are all have a fever pitch right now around trying to create a real estate play at the base of towers in order to facilitate the growth of the edge. Or whether it gets done in new ways that haven't been contemplated before in terms of standalone chambers that would sit in various locations around the world, or whether you would see drivable data centers that would exist inside the world. There's an entire new operational paradigm that's on the future. And then our ability to drive all kind of new applications. So how are we going to do, more power-consuming AI, whether it's GPUs or the next generation technologies? How are we going to get that power to those devices at the edge and go drive those? Custom architectures and high-speed optical in order to interconnect all of those together and do global deployment. So we see a number of different dynamics then are going to get driven by this new paradigm. So where the centralized data center has grown dramatically in the last decade, it also became very purpose-built, where a lot of the things that were driven out of the standards basis, the consortia, the proprietary type of networks that were driven by the idea that for me to optimize my CapEx and optimize my OpEx, I have to build a data center that's optimized to my workflow. And that has really become institutionalized now, particularly in the tier one cloud providers, the carriers, and now the rapidly growing SaaS players around the world, is this idea that I can optimize my experience for my customers through the optimization of my data center, which is highly then customized to that environment. When we move to the edge, there's going to be a new paradigm. When we move to the edge, now we have to think much more about the operational aspects of managing, tens of thousands, potentially data centers that are going to be smaller in nature. They're going to be limited in size. They're going to be limited in power. They're going to be limited in backup capabilities. They're going to have to be retrofitted inside of existing physical infrastructure, whether that be central offices, whether that be chambers and cell towers, whether that be a new set of environments that don't exist today. They're going to have to think about multiple tenants. They're going to have to think about, how do I share this location with many others? And there's been a lot of research and work done now, but it's accelerating at a pace that's been unprecedented, I think, on this space. I think what we see now is a transformation that's now just kicking in with the advent of the first releases globally of a 5G infrastructure later this year, of an immediate need to figure out how to get to the edge. And there's a forecast that infrastructure as a service at the edge will be a $100 billion business approximately by 2023. There's an interesting race, as many of you have seen if you were at Mobile World Congress, discussion around this race to 5G around the world. And why does it matter whether one company beats another company, one country beats another country, one application beats another one? Well, as I mentioned earlier, entire industries were created because of 4G. Uber doesn't really exist at 3G. You'll still be standing on the corner trying to figure out where your Uber Black is while people are driving around because of the too much latency. By having 4G, it enabled a broad array of mobile applications. When we get to 5G, an entirely new set of applications can be driven because of the increased bandwidth and speed that's available to them. And entire new industries will be created because what couldn't be done in 4G could now be done in 5G, much like what couldn't be done with 3G and 2G could now be done with 4G. And we see that going on, which is then going to drive this whole question around latency at the edge, which Cole illustrated in his presentation. And we see that as being a critical piece of the next infrastructure. Hence Open19. We're incredibly excited about having been part of the initial effort, working with LinkedIn and others, and developing the first prototypes for this, and then helping with the production implementation of this. It's been a tremendous amount of work, but it's been done with a singular mission toward how to create a much more easily managed, easily installed, easily scaled edge computing infrastructure. Certainly can be used in the core, and I'm sure it'll be used in the core by many people over the coming years. But the use of it at the edge is what's really gets facilitating these new driving applications. We see it as being flexible, can go into any 19-inch rack. It's highly scalable. We can do single racks of, to massive core deployments. Highly modular, multiple SKUs of servers with multiple SKUs of storage inside of a common cage with common power and networking interconnects, and the serviceability of it being significantly faster. The infrastructure exists today, so There are cages that are available. Cages can be ordered, as you've all talked about. There's now an online marketplace that you can go up and you can see what's available today. Those are production labeled, whether it's cages, whether it's cables, whether it's power shelves. We have a whole rack of bricks over here today. You know, we have a Skylake brick. We have others that are in design and development. But those are available today for people that want to go get invested in Open19. We have a switch, so a significant amount of effort went into this switch, as you've all talked about. It provides significant amount of bandwidth, significant amount of future upgradability, and a significant amount of power. Currently ICOS certified, but there's other OSs that are already being contemplated and being tested today by us and others, and those are available as well. And we're looking to try and help people put together trials. So one of the things that we've developed and worked on are ability for us to go and create an environment where we can give you a self-contained system that you can then go put out for trial inside of your own environment, with a switch, with a cage, with a power shelf through one of our partners, with the cabling through the partners as well, and provide that together. We believe that there's going to be a lot that's going to drive this, and I think the more we can get deployments at the edge, deployments in labs, deployments in trials, the faster this is going to move. And that's not just good for the foundation and good for those of us that have invested in it. You know, we believe really strongly in a much broader ecosystem. We believe very strongly in the growth at the edge and why the edge is so critically important to the future. And what we're really trying to do is facilitate ways to get this in the hands of meaningful applications and meaningful organizations that are going to try and drive those new applications. So the other side is, if you have open hardware, you need open software. And you know, we're working closely with the Acrino group. So we think this is important. It's not the only way to go do it, but there's actually a really good movement right now around Acrino that I think will help facilitate the adoption of technologies like Open19 into an open environment. So this is part of the Linux Foundation project. It was started in the beginning of this year. It's been supported by Intel, by AT&T, and by others in terms of key contributions into that. We believe that, you know, this and other like open software initiatives will be really critical to the long-term adoption. If you haven't had an opportunity to participate in this and other like open source communities in the Linux Foundation or others, I highly encourage you to take a look at what the ecosystem is that's being built around the edge. The edge is going to require some capabilities around distributed core data centers that is going to be unlike potentially other applications. And we're going to go drive an open community for hardware. We're looking to drive open communities for software as well, and to find ways to go create more flexibility. So we have it running in our labs. Rob Neff, who runs our lab, is here today. He'll be much more capable of telling you what we're doing than I will be. But we've got you know, dashboards that are built for user workflow that allow you to get in and monitor. There is a significant amount of API library work that's being done around this particular consortia that's going to be important. And it's going to help with orchestration and other parts of the ecosystem that's going to be required to be successful in this. And then there's a lot of involvement now with the groups that are going to really go drive this, whether that's ONAP, whether it's CEF, and a lot of the telco converged areas are looking for ways to go bridge this at the end of the day. As I looked in the beginning, whether it's 5G or it's other areas that are driving this functionality, this capability, what we see is that, the carrier to core to edge connectivity becomes much more seamless over time. There's a huge drive by carriers right now, as I'm sure a lot of you know, toward the disaggregation of their network, much like we saw disaggregation happening inside of the cloud infrastructure. Things like Open19, supported by open source software, like Acrino and others, help to facilitate that disaggregation. That disaggregation creates an opportunity to speed new applications to the marketplace. It creates lower CapEx and lower OpEx requirements for people that are doing it. It creates a much more open community for people to be able to go invest in areas where they can get direct returns. You see a lot more innovation happening when you look at organizations like Packet and organizations like Vapor that are kind of creating whole new ecosystems rapidly because of the ability to disaggregate and bring the right capabilities together. And Open19 then helps to tie this together with a modular set and an open marketplace of edge computing components that allow you to easily support this and grow it. So I'll give a shout out to the Vapor and Packet guys as well in terms of their implementation. We're running a video in our little stand over here that shows a little bit about what they're doing in Chicago today and moving it around. We're really excited about the partnership that we have in terms of how we're going to bring remote edge carrier hotels with sophisticated bare metal hosting, a software stack, Open19 hardware together at the edge to really build a fairly complete ecosystem that can be resident inside of a wireless ecosystem at the base of a tower, inside of a metro area. There are other use cases that allow you to have a highly modular edge computing environment with full stack of hardware, software, environmental controls, et cetera, that allow you to kind of move quickly to expand the edge much faster than you could under a traditional model. And from our perspective, we've built out a global footprint for doing deployment. So for us, we've taken a subset of our 100 sites around the world in 30 countries to have integration sites to help rapidly deploy this. So we're using our vast infrastructure of manufacturing and integration and deployment capabilities with our services organization to be able to go create a global ecosystem that allows people to go deploy rapidly by managing our ever-changing tax and tariff world, our ability to go manufacture large-scale containers and devices in multiple continents around the world, so we're avoiding shipping things all over the world, being able to get integration activity closer to the customer, closer to the edge. If we're going to go from building 4 major data centers to 40,000 small edge data centers, the world of logistics and the world of integration and the world of deployment becomes a much higher premium. And we're thrilled to be working with Open19 as a way to expedite that. As you've all clearly articulated earlier, it's built an ecosystem that's quick to deploy, quick to manufacture, has a broad ecosystem that then allows us to use this footprint to go drive that. And then, we can converge these various pieces together and then create a full ecosystem around spare parts and logistics, and when we're done with them, asset recovery to distribution, reverse logistics, et cetera. So for us, now it's time to deploy. We've been working on this for 3 years. We announced it a year and a half ago. There's a full deployments going on today that are real, they're live, they're running traffic. They're getting the gains that were anticipated and believed by the founding members in terms of economic savings on CapEx, economic savings on OpEx, speed of deployment, speed of management, ease of deployment. There's a software ecosystem that's being built specifically for the edge that we believe is really going to drive the next generation of technologies. And there are partners like us and others that are committed to the long-term success and viability of this. We believe this is the beginning, not the end of a journey. We believe that now is the time that as we see the sequence of 5G deployments later this year, brand new applications emerging that are going to drive the need for the edge, that there's an entirely new ecosystem being built now for how to support the edge, with Open19 and others being an integral part of that. And we're thrilled to be a member of this, and we stand ready to help the rest of the world kind of go deploy it. So thank you.